Welcome to Sharing My Truth with Mel and Susie, the uncensored version, where we bear it all.
We do.
And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sharing My Truth Pod. You are here with the lovely Mel and Susie. That's me. And we are so excited to be here with you today, whatever you're doing. Thanks for listening. And you can subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it, on the Apples or the Spotifys, wherever else you're doing that. And go to our Instagrams and socials at Share My Truth Pod, and go to our website, sharemytruth.com, where you can share your truths with us. Do it now. Wow. Hey, babes.
Hello, darling.
How are you, gorgeous?
I'm fabulous.
You look pretty in pink.
Pretty in pink?
Very. I am obsessed with this little baby pink color on you.
I like a bit of pink.
It's cashmere, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, yeah. She's up there. She's the queen. She was just traveling the world and left me behind, and now she's back.
No, sorry about
So
that.
rude when you do that. Never gonna forgive you.
It is a bit rude.
She doesn't even bring me anything back.
I didn't. I'm very selfish. I bring myself loads of shit, and you nothing.
It's fucking rude, but
It is
whatever.
rude.
We'll forgive her. We can slap her on the wrist a little bit. We have a cute little quickie episode. I like that, a little quickie.
Quickie.
A little quickie. And what are we talking about, Mel?
So it is a thing that lots of people are talking about, but it's actually an article in a magazine we've talked about before.
Yes.
Grazia.
Yes.
Which is a British magazine. And this is an article even. Oh, God.
An article or a title or
I don't know what's is the age of commitment over? So we've talked a lot about being single in the last however many episodes. So this is talking about from the female perspective. This is a female magazine, so sorry to all those men, but we've got to...
Men can read the female magazines. I read GQ.
Yeah, so do I. It can actually teach you a lot. I read
It
men's magazines.
can.
So apparently more women than ever are initiating divorces, confident in themselves and their finances. And this reporter explains why she herself, through a painful divorce, has no regrets over her midlife split.
Right. So this article specifically is talking about in the age of commitment, like how it's kind of over. We're all kind of being like, well, nothing's forever. We can just kind of get divorced whenever we want. Is that what it's kind of talking about?
Yeah. I mean, she is not a young woman.
Right. She's
Like,
like a
no.
middle-aged kind of 40s, 50s maybe.
Yeah, and I think it is a bit of a thing, like going around about midlife in general, like, you know, are midlife women having lots of affairs and therefore are they divorcing and
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. And it kind of all leads into, there's also quite a lot of shows about older women having affairs or marrying younger men. Kind of like the whole thing is just this question. I guess it's, you know, female power, but we're talking about midlife.
Mhm.
That they're making this choice, like, what am I doing? And I'm gonna change gears.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely isn't a new thing. Like, if you just look
No.
at like pop culture and
Not
like
at all.
shows like Desperate Housewives or like Sex in
Exactly.
the City, like
It's not new at all.
it's not new. Like, there's women who are just, they get to a point in their life, and also it's starting earlier, I think, when we're seeing with like my generation of millennial and like Gen Zs, like I think they're having trouble even getting into a relationship of commitment. Even, do you know what I mean?
100%.
And even not even just relationships, but like committing to a job, committing to, you know, a hobby, kind of anything. I think there's a lot more choice with that younger generations are having.
Yeah, I mean, the article, like the main photo in the article is that bit from and I want to say Sex and the City. I know I say it every time and it's not. And the new one is called and Just Like That. or something like
yes, they're very
and
good.
how the character Miranda gets this point, like she's not happy and she's finally says it.
God, I
think,
hate the
to-
fucking sequel. It's so
Yeah.
bad. It's so bad.
and then she goes off and does other things. but-
Lesbians.
yeah, like
Not that there's
whatever.
anything wrong with that, but she's
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not very realistic, I think, is the problem that most people had with it. But you know, like having a midlife crisis is nothing new. I think perhaps what is new is that women now who are 50 look a lot younger,
Yes.
than they did years ago. Like when you were 50 20 years ago, or no, maybe even longer than that, it's like you looked older.
Mhm.
And it wasn't because you actually looked older. It was just like the hairstyles. You think of the Golden Girls and the fashion and all that kind of stuff. Like they looked like 80 when they were in their 50s or 60s or whatever. And so now women have allowed themselves, or society has allowed themselves at an older age to not kind of be frumpy. You know, that you can still be kind of youthful. Like you can still be concerned about your hair and your appearance and beauty, and you don't have to suddenly kind of switch it off. And
Yeah.
so therefore you can still have a sex life and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe you look at this person you've been with for 20 years and think, just what am I doing? Not that the men aren't doing that either.
Exactly.
So that, I mean, that's not fair. But they are specifically talking about midlife and this idea. So yeah, is the age of commitment over? Which I think is a very strong statement, because of course it's not over. It depends on the individual.
Well, exactly. And I know a lot of people my age who would never think about either having an affair or like being with multiple partners at once. Like
Right.
that just would never cross their mind.
Yeah.
Where it's like someone like me, I'm a little bit more interested in like the freedom that kind of gives you and the experience that kind of gives. But not everyone is like that. And people love commitment. Like it's in our blood, I think, like in our genetics, to want to kind of have one person that you share a life with and like have children with, right? Like the biological thing of that. But I think it's nice that we're kind of going into this way of like being able to rethink, you know, the fight or flight, like things
Yeah.
within us, right? Like
Yeah.
it is freeing.
Yeah, I think it's the point of voicing the fact that maybe you don't want this.
Mm-hmm.
So of course there are lots of people who do, but maybe there are people who don't. And obviously there are. And let's just let everyone do what they want.
Yeah.
And I think for women it is different. And I've said this many times to you, and you generally roll your eyeballs at me, but that's fine. That's fine. Is that women is this annoying thing that we have a biological clock and we have like a time thing. If you want to have babies, you cannot, whatever they tell you, wait forever.
Blech.
And if you wake up at 45 and say, oh, now I'd like to have a partner and children, let's just put it this way, it's problematic.
No, and I totally get that. I think it's just, and more women than ever, and I'm not saying this is like a for sure thing because it can go, you know, maybe they won't last, but, you know, women are freezing their eggs more than ever now, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and I do think that's incredible. You're taking some choice within it, right? Like, because for the men who don't know, and the men listening, you get rid of an egg every month. So you have a limited amount of eggs inside of you to use at a certain point in time. And then that's when menopause happens, when you lose all your eggs. Is that kind of correct? Perimenopause?
Yeah, well, yeah, you sort of you're not ovulating anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, once you have that procedure to take out those eggs and just kind of hold on to them and freeze them, you're able to kind of put them back in. If you're maybe an older mother, as in like 40s or even 50s, which can happen.
Which is
it's
really
not
pushing it.
Yeah, it's pushing it because it's more unsafe, obviously.
It's probably late 30s, early 40s, really. So
Yeah.
I have quite a few friends who had babies in their late 30s,
Right.
like 39, friends who had babies in their 40s. And even like your mum was in her 40s, my aunt was in her 40s. It's not a new thing. But the thing is because women don't have all these little millions of sperm, you're like, as you go along, your egg kind of, this is very unmedical, production gets less and less, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, even I've said this to you before, I had my second child, I was 35, and I was classified a geriatric mother. Isn't that hilarious?
You were so geriatric.
It's
I
so
can't even
funny.
believe it.
And it's still the case, you know, like it just
It's
gets
so
more and
crazy.
more risky.
Yeah.
The older you get, and you have to have more and more tests.
No, that's true.
So freezing the egg.
Yeah.
And this is also not a new thing. I have plenty of friends of my generation. So when they were in their 20s, they're now in their 50s. I'm early 50s. Is they did freeze the eggs. The problem, I think, is we're given this idea that that's an absolute safe plan, and it isn't.
Yeah.
Because you can get to using them and they don't work for whatever reason.
Exactly.
Because you didn't know they didn't, or whatever it is. And I've seen plenty of articles about that. So that is also, it's a good kind of safety thing, but it's
not
a bit
for sure.
It's not for sure. It's a bit like, if you reverse your car and you use the little thing, beep, 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 you should still be looking though.
No.
So don't just look actually at what your car's doing. Don't just trust the little
Wow, what
video.
a great little metaphor.
But it's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that was good.
It's like, it's a kind of safety thing. It's not the actual
Yeah, like
thing.
if you do believe that that's something you want to do,
Sure.
you have to commit to
Yes.
that.
Yeah, it's sensible.
Right?
And it's sensible. And I have a couple of my friends who've had babies without partners.
Yes.
And so they've done the old
In vitro.
turkey-based business.
Is that what
yeah.
it's called? In vitro, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There are different ways of doing it.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. But yeah, so that's that. Yeah, and you are committing to have a baby. It's a different kind of commitment.
That's right. Like there's just like so many things that like a woman especially has to commit to because
Yeah.
you're the one who has that child, right? You
100%,
get
yeah.
married and you're expected to do a lot more things typically than the man is typically
You will do.
expected.
There
You
is-
will do.
To everyone out there is no 50-50. It does not exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's not shifting different partners at different times, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
All the way through, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You can all go ahead and try if you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
You can go listen to our episode on 50-50 relationships
Exactly.
and see how
Exactly.
me and Mel think about that. But yeah, no, it's so there's a lot of things that women have to commit to, obviously, and our bodies are not going to be hot and sexy forever unless you're J-Lo or like Jane Fonda, unfortunately. But I mean, you can goddamn well try. But there's things that we have to think about for our future and like, committing to that job, committing to that man. Maybe if you want to
100%.
have a baby, or you don't have to do any of it either, which is kind of what I'm getting from this too, where it's like, yeah, maybe the age of commitment in quotes is over because we don't have to commit to something like in the old days.
Yeah, no, because there are different ways of making money now. There are different ways of having relationships. There are different ways. I mean, again, I don't think this is necessarily a very, very new thing. I think it's just the fact, like so many things, we are voicing it and it is
Mhm.
out there and for people to look at all the time. And I think that is the era of commitment over? Obviously not, because like you said, like religion or life or society was built for people to couple up
Mm-hmm.
because, that's it's there are other issues of people being very lonely nowadays, so but I think is it, of course it's not over, it's just you are free to make choices,
Mm-hmm.
but if you make choices you have to understand, like everything, there are consequences for good and for bad.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a very good consequence to you being single and free and doing your thing and being happy and
Doing
whatever.
your thing, girl.
Yeah, but there are also other consequences, and it really depends on
Like what? Having too much fun? Like what are you talking about?
Well, if you
Having
do-
too much money to spend on myself? What are the
Yeah.
what's
What are
the
the
problems?
the consequences are if you, because I've seen this with friends of mine who were very, 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 very hyper focused on
Mhm.
their career. I don't know why, to the exclusion of everything else. I'm not quite sure you can't do all the
Right.
things. And then met somebody very late in life and then went, shit, I now want a baby. And it gets very difficult. And I think, of course, what's the consequence in having fun? Well, the consequence is that sometimes you would like, it's
Mhm.
Sunday night, you would like to have a partner. The point is you can't pick and choose. You kind of have to take the good with the bad,
Yeah.
right? If you want the partner and you want that nice thing where you go out for dinner and you cook at home and you talk to somebody and somebody is there for you to support you,
Yeah.
those are all good things, but you have to accept the sum of the less good things.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
bad, just less good. 'Cause
Yeah.
nobody's perfect.
No, of course not. I think it's really exciting about women being able, like she said, like to initiate the divorce, like being able to like have that kind of wherewithal, being like, oh wait, I also make money. I, have a good career. I can take care of the kids. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where it's like, I think women before, we weren't able to do a lot of things because we literally relied solely on
Yeah.
man. And so the fact that we are able kind of shifting our mindsets around being able to be like, no, I can initiate the divorce if I don't want this. I can have an affair if I'm not happy. Like there's a lot of things that we're like now doing or being more open about, like you're saying.
Yeah.
where it's just more.
Yeah, I think it's the fact of being open, because I don't think any of this is new.
No.
Like women in my generation were doing it, like younger and weren't getting
Just
married.
like
and
weren't
weren't being
talking
treated.
about it though.
We weren't talking
obviously.
about it.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about a lot of stuff. And I think because of social media, because of the way the digital forum of life now that you can share so much and so much is out there and so on, it makes it different. But the question, I think, the article, what is important is that for men and for women, make the right choices for you. So of course, don't settle and be with somebody, which perhaps in previous generations people kind of had to get married, or they got pregnant, or whatever, they had to get married. You don't have to do that anymore. So I would always say much better to be on your own than with not your somebody, your 100% choice, whatever you want to call it, right? There's no point settling.
No,
what's
definitely
the point?
not.
Because down the line, that's going to be
definitely not. And I think it's like to also being open with like your sexuality, as in like maybe not just committing to a man, but like maybe being open to try other genders or anything like that. If you have any kind of inkling, right, that like that maybe I could be into this, maybe it could be fun, and if you don't try it once, then like maybe you just miss out on an amazing experience. And we literally only have one life to live.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I was like, I don't get it, actually.
No, I do get it, because I think that that's another thing a lot of people are talking about, is how, especially a lot of women, how are they kind of finding out later in life their sexuality?
Yeah.
And there is an element of...
They're just more open to experimenting?
I think there's an element of just repressing it because they wanted certain things, like they wanted children and home and all this kind of stuff, and does this all fit into this little image? And so I think that's the thing. Yeah, just don't shove yourself in a box. And society does want to put you in a box, doesn't it? And that's the thing. I think the thing about the article, and you will find this, Susie, the older you get, the less of a shit you give.
For sure.
You just don't care. Like, you're going to I'm going to do this for me. If you don't like it, if you don't like my hair or my face or my boobs or my persona or my whatever, tough shit.
Yeah.
It's that this is it. This is all I got. So just whatever.
Yes.
And I think that is a thing. And I think women are voicing that. They didn't voice that, a bit like we talk, about like the menopause now.
Yeah.
When I was younger, my mother's generation, nobody talked about that.
I don't even think they fucking knew it was happening, pretty much. The doctor's like, yeah, you're in menopause now. You're not going to get your period. You're going to have hot flashes. Like, I swear.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And in turn, like if you talk to I talk to women that are older than me, 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
They're just like, what's all the fuss about? Shh, shh, be quiet. What's all the fuss about? Because they were made to kind of not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's any of these issues that it's not like they weren't there. It's just we didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are getting to midlife or to any point of your life, man, woman, whatever, and you are not happy, like you said, life is short, don't stay in the thing. It's very easy to stay in the thing. But if you are independent, you are able, then live your life, be happy. So, I mean, it's talking about the search for happiness and, what is going to make you happy.
Yeah. It literally reminds me, and I was just talking to you a little bit about it, but you haven't seen it yet. It's called The Substance. And if anyone has seen it, and the only person I would recommend this movie to is someone who can handle gore and someone who likes to see a lot of tits. Like, it's it's
an interesting mixture.
It's a very interesting mixture, and it's a very good, well thought out movie. It's very it's kind of more like indie movie, but it has Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley in it, who I love. But so the movie is all about self-image and how you perceive yourself, and all but how men see us, and what we want to keep young because we want to be hot and we want to be the best version of ourselves, even though we're inside, we're dying.
Yeah.
And so she's Demi Moore is able to create kind of a twin, almost a young hot version of herself. And it gets really fucked up at the end. There's nothing that can prepare you for the ending of this movie, but it's an incredible way that they've been able to show how just fucked up the world can make women feel when we're just we just want to live our lives, and yet we are just striving for perfection all the time, and if we don't get it, then we're not loved.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not realistic.
No.
I mean, I think men do it to a degree as well, not necessarily in a physical way, but I think it's because we're told there's all this manifesting and all this shit out there
Mhm.
and all these people going on about their perfect fucking lives.
Yes.
And so
It's fucking exhausting.
they are not perfect, everyone. Just don't believe all this shit.
Yeah.
And then it's exhausting. And then you're trying to do something or be something that they're not in the first place.
Mhm.
And particularly for women, yeah.
Yeah, I think social media has got just a horrible, horrible, everything. Like you really, and you're like, oh my God, look at all these fucking fun people doing fun things. I want to do all these fun things, even though I have no money and no savings and all this stuff. And like,
Right.
and I do feel bad when people look at themselves in the mirror and then they look at social media and it's like, obviously these things aren't real. And that brings us back to commitment, like, all this plastic surgery going on and like all of these things that like we want to make us feel like we're like, oh, like I don't like what I've been given, so I'm going to change it, and then I'm going to commit to like having Botox on my face every 3 months or like whatever you have to do, and you can end up looking really nuts.
You really can. Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's also, I mean, the sort of the last thing I would also say about it is, and we've talked about this before, I was talking about this with somebody earlier today, is this fact that we look at social media and it's algorithmic.
Yeah.
So it's feeding you this narrative of what you've already seen. You don't realize what you're saying is what you've looked at, kind of thing. It's feeding you the same thing.
Yes.
And so you think the world is like that, when in actual fact it's just feeding you the vision of what you've been looking at, if that makes any sense. And that is actually mad, because then you get a completely skewed view of the world, rather than it showing you everything, as we all know. And you know this when you're looking at social, but you don't, like, you know this in your mind when you're looking at social media, but you don't think it when you look at stuff like this, example, like you look at a dog once and then you see 15,000 million.
Yeah, you look at one fucking pug one time.
That's it. That's all you see is pugs. And then you'd think everyone in the world had a pug, and they don't. That's the thing.
I wish they did, though.
They do. I like pugs. They're sort of
So
beautifully
stupid.
ugly.
Yes.
I love them.
I love them.
Are they stupid?
I mean, they look so stupid.
Oh.
Stupid cute, though.
Yeah. Or like, you look at like somebody's going to Paris or Rome or something.
Yes.
And then all you see is Paris and Rome. You think everyone's traveling to Paris or Rome. They are not.
They're not.
Or like everyone's, whatever it is you've looked at, and then you just get fed this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you think the world's like that. And of course it isn't. And although you know in your rational mind that's the case, but that's all you're seeing. And when you're scrolling, you're not really using a vast amount of intellect, are you? You're just going like this.
Seriously.
And then it goes into your brain somehow. I mean,
and it's feeding you these ideas
it does
about
sort of rot your brain.
It does. It actually literally does.
And I do think it is good to not look at it. I'm not terribly good at that, but it is good.
And that's also like, going on social media all the time. It's like seeing what else is out there too. Right. So, and also like that brings us like into like dating apps and stuff like that, where it's like, how can someone possibly commit to one thing or one person when there's just literally, when you see so many other people out there doing so many options in quotations, because you don't actually have the options to fucking date these fucking people or see or meet or have friends.
No.
And they're not even real. They're AI.
Well, exactly. And you could meet somebody really, really great.
Yeah.
But your head is not committed to the idea that you're secure that this is good. Like, just stay with this.
Yeah.
And you could actually screw it up because you think there's somebody else.
100%.
And then you mess the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that very positive note.
Oh my God, you guys. Just don't take yourself too seriously, I think. I think commitment is it's kind of like a sneaky little devil, Like one day you're like, oh no, I like to be in a relationship. And then the other day, you're going to get married, and then you're going to have a child, and then you're kind of like stuck into a relationship. So just make sure it's a good one.
Yeah, commit to the right person.
To the right person, if that's what's right for you.
Very good, Susie. Very well said.
Oh, I love you guys so much. I hope you like this little quickie, as we call it. Love you.
She can't help herself.
I can't. And we'll see you next time. If you guys have any stories like this, maybe you committed, maybe you didn't commit.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
We definitely
need to hear the stories, midlife and otherwise.
Yep. Go to sharemytruth.com, guys, and tell us all about it. We love you.
Until next time.
Sharing My Truth Pod is so excited to partner with Vibrator.com, where the A in vibrator is the number 8. This is an extremely exclusive code where no other podcast has it. If you go to Vibrator.com right now, use the code MS15, that's MS15 at Vibrator.com. You can now get 15% off anything in store. That's any sex toys for you, your partner, your neighbor, your mom. We don't judge. We don't care. Get it now. Go to the link in our bio, put in the code, and get jiggy with it.
Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast and follow us on social at Sharing My Truth Pod, and leave us a voicemail on our website, sharingmytruth.com, to share your stories and experiences with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.